some people want to publish their life story, and that's great. And that's, that has its own excitement and goal. But the goal doesn't have to be writing a book that becomes a bestseller. Just writing your story is an incredibly empowering act, and turning it from something that happened to you into something you're shaping as a story, as a work of art. It has this amazing benefit too, this kind of side benefit, which is you become the author of your own life, in that you can't change what happened to you, but you can change the meaning you give it.
You are now listening to the podcast where authors inspire listeners to become authors, the Going North Podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer, best-selling author, and book enthusiast, DomBrightmon. And you're going to be listening to a different author that will inspire you to join the business of immortality, known as authorship. Now let the fun begin. Today's episode is sponsored by the GoingNorthPodcast.com shop. And if you head over to the wonderful website, cop some merchandise, take a selfie with you rocking the gear, shoot it to yours truly, the host, DomBrightmon at gmail.com, and I will give you a shout out on the show as well, and heck, even tag you on social media as well. So feel free to check out some of the good old merch on GoingNorthPodcastShop.com. Now let's get on with some super special, awesome content. And today on the highlight reel builder for authors known as the Going North Podcast, we got another super special, awesome human for you today. That's right, indeed, another super special, awesome human for you today. It's probably cooler than 7 cucumbers, y'all. That's right, indeed, 7. That's right, we'll go with the lucky number 7 because we got one heck of a guest for you today. She's a decorated author, y'all, who's not only a decorated author for all the awards she's won, she's also a best-selling author too. So not only she put pen to paper, but that paper has sold, y'all. It's sold. That's right, indeed, because today's wonderful guest is not only a wonderful decorated best-selling author, she's a playwright as well as a performer and a memoir writing coach. So let's give it up for the amazing and wonderful Alison Wearing. How you doing today, Alison?
Just great, thanks.
That's right, she's doing great. That's right. So many R's. It's R and R 5 times over. She's doing that great.
Do all your podcast interviews start with this much laughter?
Nowadays, most of them do.
I think we can all use more of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right indeed. It depends on me if me and the guest are gelling together, That's right indeed. It's like, did we come out the tube and become gel, or are we still stuck in the tube? That's right. That's right indeed. But hey, it ain't about toothpaste and gel. It's about the alluring Alison herself. So my goodness, as with all introductions, are not allowed to be 738 days long, and I probably only covered, I don't know, maybe 2 days. So mind filling in any cavities I may have missed about you?
Yes, you got the essentials. Yeah, I'm a writer. I became by accident a performer, and now I teach and coach memoir writing online, but also in really beautiful places too, which is kind of a perk of this work now.
Ooh, a perk of this work. That's right indeed. She's a poet and she knows it. Yes, indeed. That's right indeed. Because here you're also a world traveler. I forgot to add that to the wonderful motley crew mix. Because if I'm not mistaken, 12 years of travel, basically the whole globe, right?
Yes. Well, I don't know about the whole globe, but yes, I did a fair bit of traveling and well, continue to. Yeah. And I started as a journalist, as a travel journalist. So that's kind of where I cut my writing teeth.
There you go. That's right indeed. And if I'm not mistaken, Iran was one of those locations, even when both folks who are not from Iran and from Iran told you don't go there.
Yeah. Yeah. So my first book was about Iran, and I traveled in the Middle East before and lived in various parts of the Middle East, and traveled to Yugoslavia during the Balkan War and written about that. And it became that was kind of my first big story that did well. Like, it won this big award. And so I was looking for a project for my first book. I was looking for a big canvas. I think as writers, we sort of start as with a sketch pad, and we write small stories, little articles, and so on. And then at some point, we just are looking for the big mural. And that was me. I was looking for a big wall, a big canvas. And I had Iranian friends in Montreal where I was living, and they were such colorful people. They just did not fit what we think of when we think of Iran, this place of oppression and fear and fundamentalism. They were just, they broke into song. They were, the most hospitable people I knew. They were warm and kind and just hilarious. People who just leaned into humor so easily, much like you, actually. And so I thought, how is this possible that these two places can coexist? These two images can be part of the same place, the same people. And how misrepresented must these people be by what we see in the media and so on? And so I decided to go and see for myself what Iran was all about. And so I went undercover. I went in hijab. I had to. I mean, that's the law. And I went with a travel partner, a male travel partner, and we traveled around. And the book became a series of portraits of the people that we met. And I mean, the moment we got into Iran, we knew that this place was so much more complex than what we see in the news. That was even when we were first as soon as we crossed the border, we were taken to a police station, and we were pretty nervous because it was the middle of the night and we had no idea I didn't know what we were going to get. And within a few minutes, we were once the initial curiosity on their part wore off, they just couldn't figure out what we were doing there. They kept saying, "You have Canadian passports. You can travel anywhere. Why did you come here?" and then once we started, I had been learning a little bit of Farsi and I had this little guidebook and phrase book rather. Once we started being able to communicate a little bit, then their curiosity just exploded. And then the next thing we knew, we were being treated to tea and dates and cookies. And, they just were so curious. They wanted to ask everything from, how much does a watermelon cost in Canada to how was life? How was daily life? How did families live? How much, they didn't use the word freedom, but how they just kept asking about ways of life, what was allowed. And that started the whole adventure. And what happened from there was really everywhere we went, we met with people who were so curious because there are so few travelers in Iran. And then just so grateful that we had come, that we had taken our time when, as so many people said, you could have gone anywhere. You could have gone to the beach. Why did you come here? And so I began to make these, what I saw as literary sketches of these people. I just write stories about all of these people that we met. And so the book became an assembly of those word portraits, as I called them. And it's just another portrait of that place. And I hope it invites some compassion into the way we think of that place and its people.
Yeah. Yes, indeed, because a lot of folks, at least one of the influences who were originally from Iran, I believe Patrick Bet David, like he would talk about basically leaving as a kid because his parents wanted to get him and them out of there because of all the bombings and whatnot and all the crazy stuff that would go on over there. And you're like, oh, I'm a journalist. I'm brave, dang gummit. I'm going in there, but I'm going to go in there with a plan.
Well, I didn't have a plan. My plan was just to stay open-minded and open-hearted and be willing to write about whatever I saw, whatever that was. But it could have been, I mean, I was quite prepared to have a really tough time and report that. But it wasn't that we didn't. I mean, we also ran into, the side of Iran that the world sees. We ran into trouble with the police later on. We ran into trouble with people who were Islamic fundamentalists and who really did not want us there. And we were really lucky that it was a different time. It was actually a time when Iran was going through quite a liberalization. I mean, it's shifted since then, but anyway, it spanned the spectrum. But the thing that surprised me about the book was how funny it ended up being. I mean, we just laughed and laughed and laughed all the way through our trip, which I had not expected. But I think human beings, we use humor as a tool of survival. And so often, I mean, I remember there was this documentary called Laughing to Death, I think it's called, and it's a portrait of all of sort of the most famous American comedians and looking back at the lives that they had. And so often they had survived really, really, really difficult or traumatic childhoods or events in their lives, and they turned to humor as a survival, as a coping mechanism, as a tool of survival. And I have found that when I've traveled, that places where suffering has been immense, you wouldn't think that people have the capacity to humor, but in fact, it's almost as though the need is that much greater. And so we end up laughing. Yeah. And so, as I say, it ended up being actually a very comical book. And I hadn't expected that.
So I'm talking about indeed. So how was the send-off? Did y'all sneak out, or did you just tell a bunch of the villagers like, "Oh shoot, we're gonna leave now. We don't want to overstay our welcome here," and then they really get mad at us?
How was the send-off? The send-off was really tough, actually, because we were taking a bus into Syria, and at one of the rest stops, the Iranians love tea and ceremony, and so you don't just, it's not like riding the Greyhound bus. you drive for a few hours, and then the bus stops and pulls over to the side of the road, and all the carpets that have been riding on the roof of the bus, they all get taken down and unrolled on the grass or on the dirt. And then the tea samovars come out and they start boiling water for tea, and everybody sits on these carpets, and it's very social and very relaxed. There's no schedule for the bus. People aren't really expecting to move anywhere very quickly. And the main thing is just enjoy where you are. So it had a beautiful quality to it. But at one of those rest stops, a man had an argument with his wife. I don't know. I didn't know. I never figured out what happened, but he picked up a wooden hairbrush, and just whacked her on the head with it. And it was, I was shocked to see it just so boldly. And he was just laughing. And then he went over with his friends and just started laughing. And she was really hurt. In fact, her friends were looking to see if there was a bit of blood or something, and she was crying. And I was so upset by this. It was so overt and not, I mean, they were laughing. And I had real difficulty with that. I just went onto the bus and sat on the bus. I was so upset. And then everyone collectively was very upset that I was upset. And so they came to explain to me, I mean, first the women came to explain to me that it's okay. It's her husband. Don't worry. It's her husband who did that. So that somehow, was supposed to make it okay. And then the man himself came and asked, why I was upset and what he wanted me to do. And I said, apologize. Just apologize. But it was just this cultural clash right at the end. And I just wanted to leave. I just didn't want to be witness to it. But it was a very uncomfortable scene. The whole scene was terribly, everybody was uncomfortable by it. And it was one of those moments. I think Iran challenged me like that in so many ways over the course of the trip, in that, I had certain ideas about how things should and should not be. And we can argue to death about who's right and who's wrong, but it really isn't about being right or wrong. There's so many ways. Everybody feels right. That's actually our problem right now as a society, is everyone feels right. And what Iran taught me to do was sit in that uncertainty, sit in the pain of that, and listen just simply listen to people. So that it ended up, yeah, I was very unsettled and really upset. And we all parted on very kind of cold terms. So then we were in Syria, and I had been wearing a hijab, the covering that women have to wear in Iran, but also other parts of other Muslim countries. And I'd grown very comfortable with that. I mean, it provided a certain shield from the world that Western women don't have. We have the opposite, where we are, from a very young age, made to feel like objects, like, objects of beauty or whatever, sex objects or something. There's no woman in the West who avoids that, feeling the gaze on her. And that was the paradox of being covered, was that it was the first time in my life where I'd actually gone undercover in the world and been able to just walk through the world. I mean, again, people can scream and yell and say, oh, but it's oppression. Well, the beauty industry is also really oppressive. So it's just not that simple. And so when I was at the end of the book and at the end of that trip, I took off my scarf and threw it into the sky, and the wind caught it and sort of circled it up into the sky. And in some senses, it felt like the end, like some kind of liberation. But it wasn't that simple. It wasn't that simple. I let go of something, but then I was back in the world uncovered again. And that carries its own complexities.
Yeah, that's right indeed. That's right indeed. Because you got to think about that a job. It's like, all right, cool. I don't have to worry about if everything else matches. It's like, hey, I could be frumpy under here. It's like, hey, it's all good. No one will know the dang thing at all.
Yeah.
Cover the face, cover the hair. It's like, yeah, we're covered, baby.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed. I guess it goes back to the original reason why we have clothes in the first place, protection.
Well, yeah, that's what's so interesting, is that we do assume a certain kind of covering as normal, and then we assume that everybody else has that same normal, and that ours is, as I say, ours is right. That's the beauty of traveling for me, is being challenged to rethink what we take as normal. And I love being challenged.
Uh, so did you ever figure out what the heck happened? Was it just one of those petty arguments where if he's tired of hearing his wife talk, he'd hit her with a hairbrush? Is that what happened?
I don't know. I don't
Oh,
know. Yeah, that part didn't matter to me so much as the way that it was just, seen as funny, even by the women um who were consoling the woman who'd been hit. They were coming to me and sort of laughing it off, and don't worry, it's her husband. Yeah, you don't worry, it's it's her husband. That's what they kept saying. And yeah, I mean, it's so layered. I mean, and that doesn't speak. I mean, there were then, I think one of the important things is that once the bus started moving after that incident, there were a couple of men who came up to me and said, we don't do that to our wives. This isn't normal. Please don't come away from Iran thinking that that's what happens. This is just that man, just as that man exists in every single culture. Multiple men. I mean, it's just not. And so, yeah, I mean, like any place, Iran has all manner of human beings in it. I mean, like any country that we try to simplify and say, they are all like this, they are all like this. It's never true. We are all unique, and every culture has every kind of person in it. And that's how actually that's what connects us all. That's what makes us all human beings.
yeah. That's right indeed. Human beings swag. That's right indeed. Humans, we are the best. That's right. And the worst.
Yeah, I vote for the latter. Actually, I don't think human beings are very kind to this planet. I think the planet would love to turf us off, actually. I'm all for penguins. You mentioned penguins when we were chatting before the record button. I'd much rather see penguins in charge of the earth than human beings.
Oh, you say that now, and then we'll have to call Bruce Wayne.
Mhm.
And then maybe we'll all be wearing bat suits if the penguins have too much power. So what your buddies in, what should I say, so what your Iranian buddies say back at home when you got back? They're like, "Oh God, you're still alive. What happens?"
Yeah, I think they were as surprised as anyone, actually, by the trip that I had. And yet they were also, I think, they were the people who were the most, well, they were the least encouraging of me going in the first place. They were afraid for me. And so, yeah, I think they were really happy. And then when the book came out, I was really thrilled to have a lot of Iranians. I mean, there was just a lot of positive feedback from Iranians and Iranian newspapers and the people living outside Iran. The book it's not available in Iran, but yeah, outside. I think, well, people were mostly grateful that I'd bothered, that I'd bothered to go and spend that time there. And it wasn't easy at all. It was really hard going. I mean, yeah, it was a tough trip, but on every level, physically, emotionally, just being in hijab in, sometimes 49-degree weather, and you're wearing 3 layers of clothing. It's, just anyway, I mean, people suffer far more than that, but I think people were just grateful that I'd taken the time to do that and written that book. And yet I want to say, on the other side, I'm sure there are Iranians who, say, what are you doing writing about Iran? This is our country. We should be the people who write about that place, who write about our people. And I agree. And I think it's always interesting too, to have someone who's completely removed, to see what perspective, we all have a unique perspective on the same thing. So it's always interesting to just to all I think of it as painting, right? To all paint a portrait. We all see different things. We all have a different take on the very same thing, which is also just really interesting.
Really interesting indeed. It's like just hearing you talk about that time, and of course, you really having these wonderful books out there with all these interesting stories. It's like you got the wonderful traits of curiosity and boldness because it's like, yeah, I'm curious, Georgina here. That's right, indeed, without the monkey suit. It's like, yeah, gonna see the world and I'm gonna be bold and go to some place where no one would see it coming at all. I'm gonna go to Iran, dang gummit, for no reason. Don't you say you got those two traits from your dad?
Yeah, probably. Well, both my parents, actually, but yeah, my dad's a bit of a pioneer too.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. Because you got another wonderful book, if I'm not mistaken, that came out 3 years ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was about a trip I made to Ireland with my dad. We were looking for just family history and stuff. And I found it amazing how interested he was in all these documents, like genealogy, all these documents, that birth certificates and death certificates from where he comes from. But I kept looking at them thinking, these aren't facts. Like this name where it says father, when women do, when we write up the birth certificates, we rely on on basically what the story the mother is willing to tell. And so many, now that there's all this DNA research, so many people are getting these surprises about who their their father actually was, or that they thought all along that they were whatever, Japanese. It turns out no, there was this Indonesian, this whole other storyline that was involved, and this has been going on for centuries. And so I just found that interesting for then, and I was curious about, yeah, we look for the facts in all of these documents, but actually the truth is in the stories, and the truth is far more complex and elusive than we realize. And that just kind of intrigued me, that we think of novels as, when we read fiction, we think of that as being imagined, and yet there's so much truth in fiction, and so much lying in nonfiction. and, and so it just gets it just, it's that ground in between that probably is where most of us live. So that book explores that, among other things. It explores my relationship with my dad too, who was at the beginning of Parkinson's, and I was just really aware. I was just watching him from a distance and kind of seeing what that illness was doing to him and what it was doing to our relationship. I just could feel the shift in that. So it's a book about all those things.
Ah, there you go. Indeed, that's right. Indeed. That's right. Half story, half memoir. So, what inspired you to become a memoir writing coach? Was it like you've had success with your own books and you figured other folks want to put their wonderful stories in the wonderful annals of immortality?
Well, yeah, because really everyone has a story and everyone's story is unique. And and I started working with people just when I would do a show, because I perform one woman shows too. And so I'd do a show at night, and then the next morning I'd do a workshop and just talk about how, because the one woman shows are based on life stories of mine. And I began to hear the most incredible stories. And everybody thinks, well, most people think their story isn't valuable, or it isn't, it's not worth writing about. But in my experience, what we think of as our life being normal, it's just because we lived it. But when you start hearing about what people, I mean, we all have just lived such incredible, challenges and overcome things, and we've gone through, we've learned so much as we age, and each person's challenge has some kind of gift on the other side of it, that it's sort of like you're shining a light back for someone else who may be going through something similar. And so the more I began to work with people, the more I realized it's really some people want to publish their life story, and that's great, and that's, that has its own excitement and goal, but the goal doesn't have to be writing a book that becomes a bestseller. Just writing your story is an incredibly empowering act, and turning it from something that happened to you into something you're shaping as a story, as a work of art. It has this amazing benefit too, this kind of side benefit, which is you become the author of your own life, in that you can't change what happened to you, but you can change the meaning you give it. And you can change the story you're telling about it and find meaning in it, find actual meaning in it. And that has, I mean, I think the people who do this work, as I say, whether or not they publish, is kind of irrelevant. It's what they notice is just that their place in the story changes, and the hold that the story, their life story or stories from their life, the hold that has over them shifts. It just, it lifts, and people become, actually, they don't realize that through writing our stories, we kind of liberate ourselves from our stories. And until we write our stories tend to write us, in that these patterns circle and circle and circle. And we're living out our story without realizing we're a character in it. And so when we become the writer of the story, we begin to have this perspective and distance, and we see ourselves as a character in the story, and realize, yeah, I actually, that's something that happened to me, but I get to write what happens now. I mean, I get to live what happens now. And so, yeah, it's beautiful work.
Uh, yes, indeed. Beautiful work indeed. So, what would you consider the main obstacles that your clients have to face when writing out their wonderful stories? Is it probably too much stories or too many stories, or is it a mindset issue, or they get scared? Like, what's the main obstacle you have to help them tackle to finally get over their fears and to get
Yeah.
to that
The
finish
the
line?
first one, probably the first one is, yeah, people try to write everything. Like that's definitely the first one is, and memoir is not about writing everything that happened. Every single thing that happened to me in my life. I mean, that is sort of deadly, in that no one else is interested. And by the time we get to writing our memoirs, we've lived so much, and we've learned so much, and so the temptation is to just try to tell it all, but that can be really overwhelming and disabling, and that can actually it can just stop people in their tracks. And so the difference, I mean, what memoir is not the story of a life. It's not a catalog of every single thing that happened. It's the story, it's a story from a life. It's a choice to narrowly focus on one aspect of life, one event, one relationship, one period of time, one transformation, and focus only on that. And when we do that, then you have the opportunity to go really deeply into that story, rather than just say this and this and this and this and this happened and then this happened and then this happened, which, as I say, it can be it's interesting for the person who lived it, but it tends not to be very interesting for anyone else. But when you write about something, when you narrow the focus of it and go really deeply into it, then you have an opportunity to really write something meaningful that can speak to a lot of people. So that's one. Another obstacle is just people saying, what if someone doesn't want me to write this? There are other people in this story who don't want this written. And that is a challenge. It really is a challenge. But there are things you can do and ways, tools you can use and ways you can approach those kinds of situations that can allow you still to tell your story while acknowledging that other people might feel differently. And this isn't the definitive history of this family or this situation. It's just one person's view, one person's perspective. And the more clear we are about that, I think the easier that can become.
That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Definitely easier, indeed. That's right, indeed. 'Cause, yeah, that can be a challenge depending on I guess on the story you decide to choose. Because yeah, when you think about it, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, it's my life, but it ain't like the whole life. It's like I didn't go to the bathroom on this day and then had to fight off a bear. It's like, no, that's not the story that goes in the memoir. Go with
That's
something
right.
interesting.
Yeah, that's right.
Go with something that makes sense indeed. Oh goodness. So my goodness. So with all the coaching that you're doing, all the wonderful things that you're doing, you keep yourself busy on so many fronts. What are you excited about over the next 6 to 12 months?
I'm actually excited about not having anything on. I, I am. I feel like I've been going solid for the last little while. I just came back from teaching. I teach writing retreats in Italy, and so I've done 3 this year. And I just came back from doing one of those and just finished performing my show. And so for the first time, and really since the pandemic, since the beginning of the pandemic, I've got a stretch of time where I don't have anything on, and I'm really excited because at the moment I'm facilitating everybody else's writing but my own. So this might be an opportunity for me to settle down into the Canadian winter and write my 4th book.
No. Sweet. Yeah. Any idea what it's gonna be about, or is it all G14 classified?
Pretty classified at this point, yeah.
Oh, all right. So it is classified. All right. It's funny when that joke actually happens. It's like, okay, so it is classified. No details at all. Not even a cashew of information. You have to stay tuned, folks.
Yeah, I think I'm not alone. I don't know many writers who like to talk about a project before it's finished. It's yeah, what is it like? It's sort of like uh what's it like? It's like sort of digging up the roots of a plant that's trying to grow.
Yeah. Or maybe the classic superstition that if you see the bride in her dress before the actual wedding,
There you
it's bad
go.
luck on
Something
the
like
marriage.
that. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right. So stay tuned, folks. That's right, indeed. We'll have her back on when the book launches, so that way we can get all the ice cream scoops. So
Thank
my
you.
good, oh my pleasure indeed. So your fabulous book, if I'm not mistaken, your latest one at the time of this interview, Moments of Glad Grace. If that book were a food, what would it be and why?
Oh, that book, great food. Irish stew. Well, it would probably be actually, it would probably be Irish stew with a pint of Guinness. Do you drink Guinness? Guinness is this Irish beer. It's so dark. The beer is so dark. It's like drinking beer that's it's like espresso or cappuccino. It's like this, it's almost coffee and chocolate and beer all at once. And it's really frothy and chewy, and it leaves a big mustache on your lip when you drink it. So I'd say the book is, let's call the book A Pint of Guinness.
uh, I'm guessing it's the real Guinness from overseas in Ireland too. The real beer that's not water, as some folks would call the U.S. alcohol stuff.
That's right. Yeah, it's the furthest thing from an American beer. Absolutely the furthest.
Yes, indeed. They say it puts hair on your chest, and then you wake up the following week and be like, "Man, what the heck happened? I feel like Steven Seagal in Hard to Kill. Where'd this beard come from?" Well, there you go. That's a first. So Irish stew and Guinness. That's right, indeed. The good old traditional true blue Guinness. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. A first time. So that's right. If you're into it, go ahead and grab it, drink it up, heat it up. That's right, indeed. Metaphorically, of course. Don't actually eat the book. Don't actually eat the book. Oh man. Well, coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but you're still in the current year, what advice would you give to yourself?
Mm, look for beauty, because you'll find it. But if you look for bad news, you're going to find that too. So keep your eye on beauty. That's what I'd tell myself.
Well, that's easy for you to say. You just wake up, look yourself in the mirror. It's already there.
Very sweet. Thank you.
That's right, y'all. It goes beyond the mirror too, y'all. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Don't just look on the mirror. Look also in the grassy fields. Look in the sand. That's right indeed. Look at the beaches. That's right indeed. Look outside. Look at the sky. Look at the clouds. Here you're gonna find formation. That's right indeed. Avoid all the bad news unless it's actual stuff that you need to know about. That's right
Yeah,
indeed.
if it's something you can do something about, then yes. Yes, go there. But so often we saturate ourselves in stuff we can't even affect. So all it does is bring us down and make us feel overwhelmed and hopeless. And then we don't feel like taking action on the things we can change or we can affect. And so, yeah. Yeah, when I was growing up, the phrase was think globally, act locally. And you don't hear that so much anymore. But I actually think, yeah, the closer to home, the closer to home we can be kind in every way that we possibly can, that's actually the greatest effect we can have. That's just how I feel anyway.
Hey, it's a good way to feel. Good way to feel indeed. Because hey, still got to take care of the neighbors. That's right indeed. Like starts at home, y'all. That's right indeed. Besides, the world is huge. The earth is huge for us small humans here. It's gonna take a collective effort. And besides, I'm pretty sure there's tons of help that's needed everywhere where we're at right now. No matter where you are.
Yeah.
That's right, indeed. The ripple effect will begin. That's right, indeed. You'll have a whole potato chip bag of ripples eventually. You just have to start with one. Well, before a chipmunk comes out of nowhere and says, "Hey, I'm feeling chipper," and tries to join a penguin, folks need to keep up with all the stuff that you're doing, especially when you decide to release that next magical book. So, for those who need to do just that and keep up with all the stuff that you're doing, Allison, what's the best way for folks to do so?
Yeah, the best way is my website, AlisonWearing.com, or I'm on Instagram or Facebook as well. And I'm pretty active in both those places.
There you go. She's a punster. She doesn't even know it. Facebook. That's right, indeed. Her face is in her book somewhere, y'all. She's a memoirist. Yep, follow her on all the magical Facebooks, the IGs. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. With all the G's. That's right. And the M's, too. That's right. Maybe the Z's. Although, not as many Z's are there are M's. That's right, indeed. There's one Xander to like every 100 Michaels, maybe. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. But before that rabbit hole gets any deeper to Antarctica, any parting words before we close up shop, Allison?
No, I'll leave that to you. Thanks.
If you're hearing this part of the episode, that means you're one cool individual. Thanks a bunch for tuning in, and if you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to share it with at least one other person in your network. Bonus points for 3. And be sure to check out the backlog too while you're at it, because there are hundreds of wonderful episodes to choose from as well.